With regard to Tyson, I'm always curious as to how these relationships kind of start, because Top Rank's tentacles spread far and wide, and I know that an organisation like yours, you'll have people keeping an eye on all sorts of amateur scenes for you. And I just wonder when you first kind of heard about him, this kind of 6'9" traveller from Manchester called Tyson Fury. I mean, he's not one you're going to forget, is he? So how long ago was it that you first heard about him?
The first time Tyson Fury came on my radar, let me be honest about it. Well, I was doing a light heavyweight fight in Quebec, Canada, where Alexander Vocek knocked out Stevenson, and Stevenson had that real problem because of the knockout. And after that fight, the promoters gave us a room adjoining the arena where we had a television, and we watched the Fury fight with Wilder. And there was Lomachenko there, Usyk was there, Vocek was there, all my Ukrainians were there watching the fight. And we scored that fight, and we thought that Fury won that fight going away, even though he was knocked down twice. And after that fight, I said to myself, and I talked with Todd, who's my stepson, who's the president of the company, and said, we got to get this guy. And we were able to make a deal to get Fury and bring him over to the United States. But he wasn't on my radar, to be honest, until that fight, the first Fury-Wilder fight. And I didn't realize what a character he was until we started promoting him. I mean, I've never had a fighter who, after a fight, would serenade the fans with songs. He became like larger than life.
In that regard, is he a good kind of lesson for other fighters? Because you said what you said about Terence Crawford a few weeks ago, and I think with promoters, big and small, that did kind of resonate, that now more than ever, you need your guys to not just say, oh, I'll leave that up to my promoter, that they actually take an active interest in where their career is going and do what they need to do to get it there. If it's singing a song, if it's dressing up as Batman, whatever it is.
Yeah, but Matt will tell you, you can't force that. Some guys are able to do it and some aren't. Like, I promoted Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Well, he couldn't sing a song after a fight and couldn't be charming after a fight. And I also promoted a lot of fights for Sugar Ray Leonard, who was the essence of charm, but it came naturally to Ray and it didn't to Marvin. So you can't really force a fighter to be what he isn't. Now, Tyson is a showman. He's a showman, and he has this mentality, and I don't want to be racist about it, but he has this mentality because of his traveler background. And many people in the United States have become familiar with travelers from the UK, which could be called gypsies, because of a show called Peaky Blinder, which is now in its like 8th season, and it's based on a traveler community in either north of England or
in Birmingham, Bob, in Birmingham, the Midlands.
Yeah, right. And so people who follow that, and vast numbers of people have watched Peaky Blinder on Netflix, now sort of relate to Tyson, who is the Gypsy King, and that's an element that's really helped him.
That's hilarious, because where Matt's from, where his old amateur gym is, that's Peaky Blinder country. That's literally Peaky Blinder country. That's where they were from.
Literally.
Are you a traveler, man?
No, I'm not, Bob. But Birmingham, where in fact Small Heath, which is on the Peaky Blinders program. I don't know if you've watched it, but I boxed the Small Heath Amateur Boxing Club. That's literally right where it is.
Right.
I used to run up Garrison Lane when I was doing my sprints.
But it's amazing that, Matt, though, isn't it? The things that can just capture the imagination. And
Right.
of course, Bob's right. It's each to their own, but you've got to find a way of selling a fighter according to their strengths. So, okay, Marvin Hagler's not going to sing you a song, but you polish him up on the flip side of the coin, don't you? That, you know, he might not sing you a song, he might look at you like he's going to take your head off, but that glowing menace was what made him appealing.
Yeah, look, as Bob said there, you can't force things. You can't be inauthentic because people can tell that and it just doesn't work. But you do, you know, I think Top Rank's philosophy is its ability and marketability. You know, some people are more promotable than others. They've got an outgoing personality. I mean, look at Conor McGregor. He's a promoter's dream. Prince Nassim Hamed. You know, they're very easy to promote. Ricky Hatton was easy to promote. You know, he had a massive following. He had an exciting style. He was kind of your boy next door. I wasn't wearing $3,000 suits, or he wasn't backflipping into the ring, but he had his thing and it worked for him. But he also understood the game. Like I remember Frank Warren joking. I heard him in conversation. I was there, and he was talking about Joe Calzaghe, how he wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't turn up to things. They'd get him a major pass for the premiere of James Bond or something, and he wouldn't go. He said, you know, you got Joe Calzaghe didn't play the game, and then you had Ricky Hatton who'd go to the opening of an envelope, you know, to push himself and build his name and be out there, you know. So, you know, Bob's a promoter, but I'm guessing, reading from the outside, you got Terence Crawford. He has to play the game too. You know, all right, he's winning fights and he's doing the business, and that's his job. But he's also got to, you know what I mean? I'm promoting him. He's got to give me a hand. He's got to be promotable. You know what I mean? So, but you know, some people listen. Tyson Fury grabs the mic and sings the song. You know what I mean? He's got an outgoing personality. Some people haven't got that. You know, Terence Crawford's probably more shy, but in that case, then it's harder work.
Yeah, Matt's right. Matt's completely right. You can't, in getting the guy to be more personable with the public, you can't make him inauthentic. Once you do that, you turn everybody off.
So who would you say it doesn't have to be just one, but of all the fighters you've worked with, who would you say has kind of been the best at that? For whatever reason it was, they knew who they were and how to sell themselves, and it might have been because they were loud, or it might have been because they were menacing, or whatever it was, whatever their thing was. Who would you say was the best?
Well, the box office guys, Ray Leonard, certainly in that era. Muhammad Ali, there's nobody better selling himself than Ali. Later on, Tyson Tyson did this nonsense thing with Roy Jones, and they did 1,200,000 pay-per-view buys in the United States for an exhibition. That just shows the indelible imprint that Tyson had on the minds of the sporting public. You know, I think nowadays, one of the guys who will become a household name because he's a good fighter and a great personality is this kid that beat Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, because of he's so outgoing, so brilliant. People are really attracted to him. Oscar has this lightweight kid that may be a future sensation. I'm not talking necessarily as a fighter, although he's very good, but as a personality. There's Ryan Garcia, who's fighting Luke Campbell, is a tremendous personality. He has millions of Twitter followers. You know, all these young people, mostly young women, the same kind of demographic that Oscar had when I promoted him. You know, he was a tremendous personality.
Sounds like Macklin's following when he was a fighter. Very similar by the sound of it.
Well, he didn't. Unfortunately, we never promoted Matt. If we had promoted him, we would have brought out his personality.
I'll agree with that.
Well, it didn't take long to come out back in the old days. I'll tell you that. He's. But do you think this is something we ask promoters? Everybody we've had on really, and as I said, nobody's achieved the same longevity of you. But Frank's been in the game for a long time. Eddie and Calla, who we've spoken to.
Frank's a young guy. I remember when Frank started. I mean, I was well into my career. I mean, I've been doing this now for over 55 years. That's a long time. That's a lot of generations, a lot of fighters.
Bob, would you say that if you look at the promoters from the UK and you've done so many big fights over the years, would you say that Mickey Duff was the closest relationship you had, though? You've done so many fights with him, didn't you?
Yeah, Mickey was a pain in the ass, but he was a great boxing guy. I remember, I mean, let me tell you a story about Mickey. Finally, after a lot of hard work, we convinced the WBC to order a fight between Alan Minter and Marvin Hagler. And for some reason, Mickey, who was a great boxing guy, didn't think very much of Hagler. And so in those days, Mickey had a piece of the promotion of Hagler, and I had a piece of the promotion of Minter because of the Antifermo fight. So I'll never forget, we were in London, and Mickey was telling me how Hagler was overrated and Minter was going to destroy him. So we all had a lot to drink, and so we made a deal on the spot that we would give up our promotional interest in Minter, and he would give up his promotional interest in Hagler. And you saw how that worked out.
Oh, but he was sick.
But I guess there, every now and again, you get that kind of perfect storm where you find yourself sitting around a table trying to hide it, but being 100% confident that you are getting absolutely everything that you want to get. I mean, that feeling, I'm sure, never gets old.
You see, in those days, where it's not because I'm overly nostalgic, but in those days, before a big fight, the promoters, all the promoters from around the world would gather. It would be Sabatini from Italy, Tito Lectori from Argentina, Mickey Duff and Jarvis Astaire from the UK, myself from America. We would all get together and have dinners. And all of Eileen Eaton, the woman promoter from California, she would be there. And we would have these discussions, which would lead to big fights being made, deals being made, but in a very social environment. It was different then from what it's become now, with promoters just not getting together and talking badly about each other, which wasn't the case then. I mean, you know, for example, I did many fights with Barry Hearn, Eddie's father. Great guy. We had great times. He had what was the English heavyweight's name? Who fought
Herbie Hyde.
What?
Herbie Hyde.
Herbie, was it Herbie Hyde? No, not Hyde. It was before. It was a heavyweight that Barry had, and then he had Eubanks, and but who was that guy? Who was it? Herbie Hyde?
The fought Riddick Bowe.
That fought Riddick Bowe. No, who fought Michael Benn? Was it Hyde?
Yeah, Herbie Hyde beat Michael Benn.
Yeah, okay, that was Herbie Hyde. So we, I had a great social relationship with Barry. Now Eddie's younger, I mean, I've known Eddie since he's been really young, and he's a good promoter. But again, you can't have that type of relationship with Eddie. And, in the old days, uh, you wouldn't have like English promoters going after each other the way Frank and Eddie go after each other. It wasn't done. I mean, again, it doesn't help the sport to have Eddie spouting off against Frank or spouting off against me, or frankly, me spouting off against Eddie. That doesn't help the sport.